Everyone's talking about this Logan Paul situation. Now, I'm not really interested in the drama aspect of this, but we're going to go into the relationships between men and women and why this is important, because that is the core, that is the root of everything that expands culturally, societally, politically. But just to go into the drama a little bit, what we have is Logan Paul, he's into boxing now, and you have this guy, Dylan Dennis. And Dylan Dennis, he's resorting to traditional trash talking. And like any good trash talker, you have to really hit hard at your opponent to emotionally invoke them. And it has to be something personal, of course, right? I'm not saying I'm not advocating for this. This is what this guy is doing. So what he's been doing is going on his Twitter and showcasing covert and overt promiscuity by Logan Paul's new fiance. And of course, this is going to hit Logan hard in the sense that, look, even if you're totally bought into the matrix, even if you're totally bought into the establishment, the status quo, all of the institutions around you, there is a subconscious feeling that you may have of why this is funny. Why Dylan Dennis ridiculing Logan Paul is comedic is because he's exposing the very thing that men are fearful of, right? Which is paternity risk and pair bonding ability. So men, deep down, through evolution, our biology prompts us to care about a woman's history, a woman's past. Why? It's not so much to be judgmental, although we are being judgmental from an evolutionary biological point of view. It's to safeguard, to understand that in the future, we are more likely to be able to lead and have the woman follow us and support us. And there's going to be an emotional connection there. And you're able to understand and know that the future children that you have kids with this woman, they're actually your kids. So if you have I'll paint it to you this way. Pair bonding is you have oxytocin, different chemicals, they come together. This is how people form friendships and relationships. Now, when you degrade and desensitize that pair bonding ability, so take a piece of tape, put it on your arm, keep taking it off and putting it back on. After about 5, 6, 7, 8 times, the tape is going to get much weaker. That bond is much weaker. Now, if you look at the studies, because we're always going to use empirical data to evaluate these situations, not just our impressions or how we feel about something, although a lot of times our instincts are tied to something that is legitimate. We're just substantiating it with data, right? So if you look at men, the pair bonding ability does go down over time, but it's negligible. And so they can have many partners. Again, not advocating for this, just analyzing the data. But if you look at women, as soon as they have like 4 or 5 partners, their pair bonding ability, I mean, it drops dramatically after 4 and 5, but it still drops nonetheless, even 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way up till X, Y, and Z. But it drops dramatically after 4, 5, 6. So women are more affected negatively by promiscuity, and that's an evolutionary trait, because typically you would have, I know things are different societally where, and this is mainly in the West, where women can make their own money, they don't have to be dependent financially on a man, but the hardwiring of the software is the same, right? So the hardwire and I guess the software is the same, but we as an institutions, they're trying to distort the software to make it something different. Now, over time, over the course of hundreds of thousands, millions of years, perhaps our species does evolve into something different. And the way we mate and our sexual strategies do change. But when you look at women, because they've had to rely on men for protecting and provisioning, it doesn't matter if they already have X amount of resources, they still want a man that has more resources, right? They want to understand that they themselves and their offspring can be taken care of. The same way men look at women, as in if you've already had so many partners, your pair bonding ability has degraded, and now I have risk of paternity. I don't know if the kid is mine. And men care about legacy, DNA, lineage, genetics, all that. Women know that the kid is theirs because they're holding the kid for 9 months. So when Dylan Dennis is ridiculing Logan Paul, and he's showing that his fiance has been with a bunch of men. Now, we don't know if his fiance has been sexually with these men, but he's showing a bunch of images, and also there's video clips of her saying some weird stuff, and it creates the perception that this woman is promiscuous. There's also a lot of other red flags, like she has status, she has wealth, she's older than Logan Paul. These are risks because generally it doesn't fit our biological parameters, okay? And it's not like society has constructed those biological parameters, although yeah, you have culture. Culture is a derivative of biology, so the culture we have is legitimate in the sense that it comes from our biology. You can take the same thing from other species. If you look at lions, if you look at ants, if you look at rhinos, they're going to have a certain culture in their species. Obviously, it's much different than we as humans, but it's only relevant to them as a species because it's stemming from their biology. Maybe rhinos rub each other's horns, and that's how they groom each other, right? We don't have horns. We don't groom each other that way. Rhinos do that because it stems from their biology. The same way humans, hominoids, what we do culturally stems from our biology. Now you have social constructionism, which a lot of people are alluding to, but that's really the new stuff that we've had within the past 60 years. For not just hundreds of thousands of years since Homo sapiens, but millions of years since we've been hominoids, we've been developing and evolving certain biological traits, innate characteristics, innate instincts, and that creates culture, right? So that's what we're falling back on. We're looking at what has been evaluated over the course of history, not what's new within the past 50 years. If you ask a woman, hey, and hopefully they're honest about this, do you want a guy who's taller than you, who's more competent, who's making more money, he can protect you, he has more muscle mass, he's stronger than you? A lot of girls will say, yeah, of course, like they want someone who's better than them in every way, but they want equality. And equality is, you can have equality under the law, we have that, although it's still not, it's equality from a systemic point of view, but people are still people, so women get a lesser sentence for the same crime that a man commits. There's still going to be prejudice in the system just because of our biology. We view each other differently. You're not going to be able to erase that fully. That's what makes humans humans. We're not robots. When you look at this situation, generally, women date someone who's slightly older than them, 3 to 7 years. They can date a lot older, and men choose women who are 18 to 24. Now, if you look at the data, because people will be sticklers about this, it is true that women get married around 28, 29, and men like 29, 30, right? So the age difference is very close together. So that wouldn't fit the biological parameters that we're setting out here, 4 to 7 years or slightly older, and men going after women who are 18 to 24. But that's for various reasons. The reason is women right now have a lot more opportunity. They prolong having children. They prolong, or they set aside having children. They set aside getting married until it's finally time where they need to make a decision and consolidate on their value as a woman, right, sexually speaking. And men, they're just trying to get an option. Most men don't even reproduce. I've said this so many times, 40 to 60% of men never reproduce, whereas over 80% of, 40, yeah, that's actually true. 40 to 60% of men, because I was looking at the opposite stat, 40 to 60% of men never reproduce, whereas over 80% of women, they actually reproduce. So if ideally men had the status, wealth, charisma, mentality, all that, they would go after a woman who's 18 to 24 because they're more fertile, right? And fertility, then you have beauty. Beauty is a derivative of fertility. That showcases higher quality eggs. Men care about replicating their genes. They want to replicate their genes with someone who's going to be like a good host. These are all biological terms, right? And the only way to do that is to find high quality eggs that have a high likelihood of producing a sound offspring. Men generally are not going to go for women who are 50 unless they have no other options. They themselves are older, and I mean, there are variables to that. So you can look at the data and see why it is that there's a small age gap. But in reality, that's not ideal. That's not optimal. That's not what people biologically want to pursue, but they have to pursue it due to a lack of option, right? For women, they have too many options, and they can put off everything and then consolidate on an average person, an average guy, someone who will take them when they're 29, 30, and the guy that they truly want doesn't want them anymore because he's looking at girls who are much younger, much more fertile, because the guy that they want is going to be a guy of high status, charisma. He's like the perfect ideal guy. He's going to want a woman who can help him replicate his genes, and so he's going to go after what is most optimal for his situation, right? So when you look at this situation, a lot of red flags. I mentioned also status, because that was the age part. The status, when you have a girl who has status and or wealth, what it does is the more money a woman makes, she narrows her dating pool, because now she can only make what I said before. She can only mate with a man or be with a man short-term, long-term, although you can get away with this short-term, more so short-term. She wants to be with a man who makes more money than her because she's looking from a subconscious point of view, a man who is more superior in terms of resources, even though she has her own money, right? Like I said, you can kind of get away with it in the short term, like short-term dating, but for long-term mates especially, women are looking for men who are making more money than them. And that's what the stat shows. The stat shows actually like 58% more, so it's not even matching. A lot of guys like to say matching, but it's not even matching. It's like the guy literally has to make more. And so when we look at status, the last attribute of this, when a woman has status, what she's getting is a lot of attention. It's not necessarily attention that other guys want to be in a relationship with her, but she may conflate it as these are guys who want to be intimate with me, and also these are guys who would also want to be in a relationship with me. So girls often conflate the two. And when they do that, they're just saying that they're getting all this attention, all this validation. This has never been done before, where you have women who are showing their bodies off, which is their prime agency, and you compound it with social media. And so when you have a woman who gets all the attention and things go hard in a relationship, she thinks that she has other options, and she may have other options, but the perception is the reality. And so she's more likely to leave, especially when she has a lower pair bonding ability, because maybe she's been promiscuous, maybe not, but let's just say in this case, if you have a lower pair bonding ability, you're not going to work it out in that relationship. Women are already fickle because they're emotional, so they make more decisions off emotion. Now, a lot of people criticize guys and say guys are emotional. Guys are also emotional. Humans are emotional, but guys are a little bit more logical relative to the average woman. So if you're extremely emotional and you're making all your decisions based off emotion, and that's where you're getting the fickle nature, and then you have a poor pair bonding ability to this person, so you can't really be emotionally connected to this person where you would stick with this person, and you have a lot of, let's say you have status, you're more likely to leave that situation or be part of infidelity. You're putting the relationship at risk, and a lot of women do that, and we can talk about men all day as well, but this is I'm going to talk about men here in a second, actually. This is really a public service announcement, because you can be Logan Paul, you can have the status, the wealth, the charisma, all that, but you don't have the mentality. You don't understand, like, everything that he has is not enough to compensate for his ignorance when it comes to relationships. So maybe this relationship works out, maybe it doesn't, but there's a whole reason why this Dylan Danis guy is pointing out that, hey, I'm ridiculing you for something that is so biologically ingrained into our mind. Even if you're not consciously aware of it, you're still going to be ashamed or embarrassed. And why would you be ashamed or embarrassed? Because subconsciously there's truth in that, right? There's truth in what Dylan Danis is saying. And so I don't know what the outcome of this situation will be, but it's a prime example of you can have everything, but if you don't understand relationships, your life will not go well. Like, women can be the best thing in your life if they're the right woman, if you vetted them, if you have a certain optimal situation that you've planned out and you're the leader. But if you're doing the opposite of that, the woman will resent you, she'll despise you, you'll be locked in a situation where you can't get out, and she will make your life a living hell. And that's what a lot of guys face because they lack options. So they're just trying to settle, just get into a relationship to propagate their genes. And oftentimes they're not the leader. The woman is the leader. That's why there's an old saying, happy wife, happy life, or she wears the pants in the relationship. And men are more like the cowards, the submissive ones in the relationship. And that's not optimal for a sound relationship. You can't have the woman be masculine and the guy be feminine. It needs to be the guy is masculine, the woman is feminine. And everyone benefits in that situation. So now talking to the guys, when you are completely unaware of how your inability to have options is going to be a huge detriment to your life, it needs to wake you up. And I understand, because we're looking at, I already mentioned the stat, 40 to 60% of men don't even get the chance to reproduce. But if you're in that category of men who do reproduce, that means you're in a hierarchy. If you can move up in the hierarchy, even if it's 5%, let's say you're going from the top 10% to the top 5% or top 30% to the top 20%. I know it's going to be different for everyone. There's different IQ levels. There's different genetics. Everyone has a different competency level. Everyone has different social skills. There are a lot of things you can develop. Like, everyone has a certain potential. Where that potential lies, it's different for everyone. I'm not going to beat LeBron James in basketball because I have a different potential in height than he does, right? But everyone has a different potential. And so what you do is you go based off that potential. Now, when you look at that potential and you see, okay, I don't know how far this potential goes, but I might as well push forward and try to double down on my job, my career, and make even more money. That's one stat you can optimize, okay? I won't even say max out on, but optimize. Or your looks. If you can get nice haircuts, get in the gym, get in shape, that also builds your confidence. It doesn't just build your outer, it builds your inner. If you can build your status online, produce content, you have to give value to the world. Like, there are a lot of aspects to this. Even if you're just trying to build status, you have to give some value to other people, especially if you want people to stick by you and be extremely sticky and strong with who you are as a personal brand or maybe businesses that you build, right? So you have to provide something that's meaningful to people's life. You have to emotionally compel people, and they are gaining something from listening or watching you. So when you build all these things, you're optimizing yourself as a man. So there are guys who are like, let's say 6'3", okay? Because that's fairly attractive for a woman. There's a drop off after like 6'4", 6'5", 6'6", it drops down. Once you get to like 5'10" to 6'3", that's like, you're in there, right? So if you have a good height, but maybe that's all you have, well, you need to look at other areas that you can optimize, because you're not optimizing your current situation. If you're, let's say, 5'7" or 5'8", look into optimizing other things, because you can't change your height, right? So this is all about, men have more to work with. You got a few more things to work with. It's not just all based off looks. For women, most of it is looks, right? Once you get into a relationship, other things matter as well. But men are primarily looking at fertility. Then what comes after that? Femininity, submissiveness, supportiveness, compatibility, able to have a conversation. Like, these are things that men are looking at. Women are looking at men for status, wealth, influence, charisma, mentality. We're looking at different things. And this whole distorted ideology of we're living on equal terms, not from the law, but from how we perceive each other from an attractive point of view. It's an illusion for a lot of people. A lot of guys get stuck into it because you're growing up K through 12. Most of your teachers are women. Your dad's not in the house, so it's your mom raising you. There are a lot of women who are taking their emotional concept of how the world should be and implanting it to you. And as a little boy, you're indoctrinated into the system. And by the time you're 16, 17, 18, this is all you know. This is why you have a lot of guys who are naive with women. And now we're talking about simping, right? But a lot of guys are naive with women. And to an extent, like, a lot of people will say that men are the prize, women aren't the prize. And then a lot of other people will say women are the prize, men are not the prize. And it's at first glance, women are the prize. Women are the prize because if you break down what makes male and female, we can talk about things like the women in any species usually select the males, but it really comes down to our sex cells. Whoever produces more sex cells, they're the male. So, because there are differences in different species. There are some weird species out there where you would think they're the male, but they're actually the female. Like in hyenas, females are actually more aggressive. They have more testosterone. But the common denominator is that males in any species, they produce more sex cells. So we produce more sperm, for example. Like in one ejaculate, there's like tens of million. I think there should be like around 100 million, but because of plastics and poor nutrition and the society we now live in, it's dropped in half, right? Women, they only produce so many eggs, not even just per term, but for their whole life. And the quality of those eggs goes down. The quality of the sperm goes down as well, right? Now you can take care of yourself. But when you're looking at this from a biological point of view, women are the prize. This is why more women reproduce than men, which also means that there are men who are sharing a few women at a time in every generation. So what you can do as a man is work on yourself. And when you become in the top 10, 5% of category of men, now you are the prize, because now all of the women are chasing that type of dude. So it's a very weird concept, but if you can understand it and then you can work towards something better, then you get to a point where, life is good. But for most, there's also this piece of data. The average woman has a really good, decent life. She has a decent life. Now, for the radical extremes, like the best ultimate life, but also the poorest, worst life that you can ever experience, men are at the top and at the bottom. So again, we're dynamic, but it's better on average to be a woman. But if you're a guy and you optimize this existence, you will live a better life. That's not most men in history or present day, but that's the potential, right? I'm presenting the potential to you. So when you look at this Logan Paul situation, don't think people like this have everything. Jeff Bezos is the same way. Elon Musk is the same way. Maybe Elon Musk is getting a little bit better. But when you look at Jeff Bezos, when you look at Logan Paul, they're good in many fronts. I mean, even if you listen to the podcast, you're not really getting any value from it other than entertainment value. But, he's made a name for himself. He's built businesses. He's made money. Great. But all that means nothing if you can't have proper relationships, if you can't set boundaries, if you don't understand how to lead a woman, if you don't know how to pick the right woman. These are all going to affect you. As a dude, that's like your biggest thing. I mean, even if I go macro, relationships can be the best thing in your life because they make everything. When you transact with someone, when you're talking to someone, when you share something with someone, when you build something, you're working with people. On the same side of the coin, they can also be the worst thing in your life because, again, you're transacting with people, you're working with people, you're building stuff with other people. If you're around really good people, life is enjoyable. This existence is really fun and enjoyable. When you're with the wrong people, you're around the wrong people, life is miserable. It's suffering, right? Now, guys on average already have to go through a lot of suffering just to become someone, even to get to that optimal point that I was talking about earlier. It is suffering. Women don't have to face that as much. But if you're a guy, look, you're already here. You're already suffering. You're already going through this. Now, it's different in the West than it is in every other place, although even in the West, you can still suffer to a great degree. But at least you have not even the perception, but the ability to have more opportunity. You just have to double down on something, and you have to actually build something, right? But you have different things that you can work with. I understand it's a lot on your plate. I understand for men, it's very difficult. There are men out there who are struggling. Maybe they're good in one area. Maybe they have a good or decent job, but they can't see their kids because they got a divorce or whatever. They broke up, and the girl took the kids and he lost the custody battle, or he didn't fight for it because it was hopeless, or he couldn't afford an attorney. There are guys in really dire situations, and they don't want to be part of this existence anymore. And that sucks. I know, like, I've been there. I'm still going through it. We've all been there. You have to be able to find hope. You have to be able to find a way, even if you can move up a few percentage points up the ladder just to improve your life. Like every percent that you move up in life, it's not like your life gets 1% better. Your life actually compounds and gets multiplied by how much better it gets. But it only works if you put in the work. You have to put in the effort. You have to go through the hard times. It's difficult. You're going to deal with people, but you have to rise up. And I'm just talking about this because Logan Paul is an example that we can, now he'll be fine, right? In general, I believe he will be fine. He will still be in the top strata of men. Even if he has a terrible relationship and they get out of it, he'll be okay. But this is a perfect example. And it all stems from this guy, Dylan Dennis, posting and ridiculing Logan Paul. It's there for a reason. There's a reason why people find it funny. It's all based on our biology. But if you can see this and you can relate it to your life in a sense that, okay, I can get better. I can understand this aspect. I can be there mentally. Now I just need the status, the wealth, the charisma. I need everything else. I need the looks. I can go to the gym. I can build myself. I can build a network. When you understand that, you can make something of your life. I'm introducing Constitutes Plus. This is a place where you can access exclusive content. The links are going to be in the description. This is going to be me, of course, investigative journalism, hard-hitting stories, even stories that we can't talk about anywhere else. It's at an affordable price. If you cannot afford the price, don't even worry about it. I'm going to post free content all the time. But this is a place where if you want to support or if you want to grow and expand our platform, what we're doing here, you're going to get new topics, new videos every single week. And the goal is to, with enough audience and capital, expand what we're doing with other creators where they can also come on and share their truth, their content. And of course, this is all based on the reality of the world, not some delusional reality that we now live in.